So anyway, as an artist, we have to find the overall focus of what it is that is significant to us, and then try to help everything else around it become the players to help that become beautiful to somebody else. You know, become a
You should write that. That's very poetic.
Thank you. Okay, well,
Thing to know.
hopefully we'll have it on video if this all works correctly. Okay, so let's start off there. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I like the light sky up in there because it's going to help with the drama of that dark part of the tree up top. So I'm going to grab a lot of, actually no, I don't need white yet. And I'm going to do the top portion of that more on the reddish side of the darks. So it's going to be very warm. So I'm going to start with a light green, a very subtle greenish tone to the sky up in there. Let's see. I think I'll get a little bit of.
I'm interested to see where you put this.
Do you see green, Val?
Hmm?
Do you see green in that sky?
Oh, not necessarily.
Okay, that's what she. I think
But
she
you're
said.
that's your choice to make it that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Your artistic license.
It's going to be on the yellowish side of green. Okay. Not like a blue-green or something.
I'm gonna sweater that. So what colors are those?
This is phthalo blue and cad yellow medium. And I'm gonna.
White?
Yes, I did put white in there, and I'm using a little bit of walnut oil to facilitate it so it stays fluid and yet still will help keep the wet look of the colors so they don't dry out and become matte quickly. All right, so if I want to get it more bright, then I can just come in and start wiping some of this off. Get closer down to the white of the panel. And I'll probably leave a little bit more dark up towards the top and lighten it as it comes down. This will also help me get rid of a lot of that white so it doesn't fight against my darks that I'm going to be putting in the white paint. I don't want it to adulterate my darks much. But I'm also going to have to, when I apply my darks in there, apply them with a light pressure so I don't pick up the white underneath. I just lay it on top and then leave it. If I try to work into it.
I don't understand it. Pick up the white underneath.
Like if I take a dark color, okay, so I took a mixture of just my darks, sap green deep, and then alizarin crimson, some transparent earth red, ultramarine blue, just made up a dark color, all right? And I'll vary the degrees of warm and cool within this by adding either ultramarine blue or alizarin crimson or something to fluctuate back and forth between a little bit cooler dark and a little bit warmer dark. All right, or even some of the transparent earth red. So if I put more ultramarine blue into it, then it's going to go towards the cooler side of the dark. If I put more of the transparent earth red or the alizarin crimson into it, I'll push it back towards the warmer side of the darks. So if I take those darks and let me get rid of a little bit more of this here. I just want that hint of green. So you see how that's on the greener side? I mean, if you look at this, it's green, right? But it's a yellowish green. It's a very warm kind of green. Okay, so if I have a white, if I use white, just the paint white, and then I try to put a dark on top of that, if I gently lay the brush over the top, so what I want to do first is make sure I get my drawing down the way I want, because once I lay it down, I don't want to have to fuss with it or try to remove it. So I want to get it all in one. I want it off to the side a little bit. So if I go in and now with that, I decide that I want to make these play with the paint that's right there, then it'll start to mix with the white underneath. So if I just go on top, like instead of going back in and playing with the color that's there, I go and get more color on my brush and then come back in where I want more paint and apply more paint. Then I'm not going to pick up the white underneath. Now I brush down with this side. Now I've got some paint on the other. I can switch. But if I lift off with my brush and then try to go back on, often I'll have picked up some of the white from the panel, and then that will then start mixing with my darks, and it will muddy them up. It'll change how dark they are, right? But because I've now disturbed the paint there, but if I have a little bit of dark on the other side of the brush, I can come back in and use it and lay some of that down and be just fine and not worry too much about the white underneath. Does that make sense? Okay. So.
Are you going to do the top, that one branch?
I
don't know what you mean by that one branch.
Okay.
So you're talking about?
It's almost like, I just didn't see that, I saw that.
That's what this is. I haven't put in this other one yet. And
I can draw trees that look like that.
all right. Okay, so so I don't quite like. I have the tree going slanting this direction. I actually want it to slant a little bit in this direction. So I'm going to have to go back in and wipe that all out. Okay, only from this part down though.
I see you've switched paper towels.
Yeah, I'm no longer a Viva supporter. They lost my patronage.
Yeah, me too.
So these are just Costco Kirkland paper towels, and I think they're going to work out probably just fine. And they're a whole lot cheaper than Viva.
Right.
What is that you just dipped it in?
That's my Terpenoid Naturals. That's what I clean my brushes with.
That's what I need to get that. Terpenoid natural.
Yeah. So now I've got all that. And since I have my background sky color so thin and light, I want to get rid of this entirely and then come back in with my sky color a little bit again. And I just picked up some of that color.
You have to order that turpenoid digital.
You don't have to. You can get it at, I think,
Just,
Art Mart or Hobby Lobby. But I order it from usually Utrecht or somewhere like that.
you just got your wall from
Oh, I did, huh?
the, off of there before it dried.
I wasn't even paying.
I think that was last.
Actually, no, I think that's.
remember.
Oh, I thought he just did it right now.
It was last, I do remember it happening. I didn't want to say anything.
I don't even remember it. Oh well, it is an artist studio, so
Yes.
I'm not going to worry too much about it. Huh. Okay, so I want this to. Okay. I want it to slant a little bit farther over. So I get some more dark made up. And I'm going to come back a little bit more this direction. So if I look at it and I don't like it, then I better change it quickly. Yeah. All right.
I never knew you could do that, so I learned
Could-
something.
could do what?
Right away. That
Which
you
part?
can wipe it off like that so easily with that turpenoid.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you. And you could use mineral spirits or anything else. I don't want the terpenoid to get mixed in necessarily with my painting too much though, because if you get enough of that, the paint will never dry. It'll always
It's a little bit oily or something.
it'll always stay
Yeah.
fluid.
I'll say that.
Hmm. So it's all right to have a little bit of it in there. It's not going to hurt anything. But if you use it like a medium, then you're going to be in trouble. I've done it before. Back in the early 90s when I read that it could be used as a medium, I used some and I had a big painting. It was like a 30 by 50 inch or bigger, and it just did not dry.
Ever?
Never. Mm-mm. Nope,
What'd you do?
never. I don't remember what I did with that. I wiped it all off
Oh
and
my God.
started over. I can't remember. But I didn't know at the time. I waited for weeks, at least 3 or 4 weeks, thinking it would finally dry, but it didn't. Okay, so let's see. We've got, now I have to determine what I want in the background, and I want to make sure I don't get these branches too big, because I want to keep that verticality, that feeling of it being tall and really stretching up in the picture. And since our panel is a different dimensional size than the photo, than my reference, then I have to emphasize it even more, because cutting off this much will help to emphasize that, but since we've added to the sides some, I have to still maintain that feeling of being vertical. But I didn't want that tree is almost right in the center in the photo, so I didn't want that. I placed it off to the side, and I'll have a couple of supporting players, trees and stuff, on this side of it. But this should be my main focal area. So now I can take and get some of that background. And now that I have my main dark in there, I'm just going to start putting the background colors in the way that I see them, in the as close to the value as they are, as I can get. What's that?
What colors did you just mix up?
Well, when you have the video, you'll be able to see what colors I'm grabbing as I do it. It'll be otherwise you won't get to paint it all today.
Okay.
if I try to tell you all the colors.
Bill, will the walnut oil dry?
Just I don't use use too much of it,
Yeah.
but a little bit of it just helps kind of keep it fluid. Okay, so actually, let's see here. So the color. All right, so I'm gonna darken up the lower portion of the background in there so that it helps, because the trunk down here is going to be lighter, so I'm going to want to have some darks back in here to help punch that. And then I really want to emphasize the slope of that. But I'm going to offset that by bringing some of this with another slope, just to make it more interesting and fun that way. Give that movement going through the painting, moving it through. And then some of the branches that we'll put in will also help with that. So right here, I probably don't have to do a whole lot more in the end with that background color. So that's why I use a big brush, and then you leave some of the dry brushing so that we see that the sky is kind of coming through a little bit of that, right? And then we can lay it in quickly that way. Then I can start taking, as we come up into the sky where we're going to be getting more of the darker trunk and more of the sky, I can start to lighten up some of this here as we come up into the area. And I'll change up the colors periodically as we go along.
There's probably the hardest part for me in the picture. What he's doing.
The background.
Well, just the swishing and the what to leave and what to take away. I think I could get the detail on top of somewhat, but like background never looks like this. I like that loose sand. That's hard.
There's definitely nothing easy about painting. I mean, we want to simplify as much as we can, but learning how to simplify is one of the more complicated parts of painting. And then a lot of this is just really experimenting with it until you find things that you like. As you go along, as I've painted, I'll paint something, do a certain technique or brush stroke or something that I haven't done before, and then I'll think, hey, I kind of like that. So then if I repeat it a few times over a course of days, then it starts to get ingrained in my mind. But if I do it once and then forget about it and don't go back to it, then I've lost it. So otherwise they can become part of your buildup of skills and techniques that way.
I can see where your gesso is a benefit right there.
Oh yeah, that textural quality, huh?
Yeah.
It helps when you dry brush over it, you get those textures under there, yeah, the striations.
What color of green did you add? I know you don't want to talk about
Sap green.
sap. Okay.
And I could have done it with with other ways too. That was just the more expeditious way of doing it. All right, so you can see I'm going to leave a lot of the sky up in here. And I'll just have some branches coming up into there. And let's see, I'm going to take also some of this darker area. I want a few areas that are darker down in here. Maybe a couple up into here as well.
I muddy things when I do what you just did. And I do it in this.
Well, that will come with practice and playing all the time with it.
I'm not as
Just-
light touch as you.
And quick.
Yeah.
I am too determined.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That helps holding the brush back
Okay.
a lot. Sometimes I'll end up getting up here forward, but often I'm back at the end of the brush because it'll help to keep from getting too,
Too heavy.
yeah,
Exactly.
too heavy-handed. And especially in the beginning stages like this, it is about keeping both the mind and the brushes more fluid, letting everything kind of.
That's good to know. Beginning stages.
So a lot of it is really playing with it until, because when I first looked at it, there were certain things about it that stood out to me that I thought I liked that about this piece. But in the end, I'll pretty much let the painting kind of direct me as well. I have a good idea of where I'm going with it, but if some happy accident happens in there, I want to be open enough to it that I'll let that keep going. I don't want to be so concrete in my resolutions that I don't let the painting happen as well of its own accord. So, all right, now I want to take and get, that's right. So, the leaves at the bottom, all that leaf-covered foreground. And this is where it doesn't have to be every little, object and leaf and things put in there. Much of this is just representing what is there. And okay. Then I can come in and put in a few more tree trunks, and I'm going to make some of these a little bit cooler so that they go back in there a bit. So I just took ultramarine blue, I think, and added it in with some of my mixtures here. And you'll be able to see that when you see the video portion of this. And then I can come in to these and gently lay in some trunks back in here. And actually I'm going to take some very light ones here. More of a lavender grade down because I really want them to go back in there behind. And I don't necessarily want to pull it through everywhere here because I want it to be back behind a lot of that foliage.
What kind of brush are you using?
It's a Utrecht bristle blend, interlock bristle blend. 207. It's on my website.
It's a flat or a brush?
Yeah, it's a flat. I use mostly flats because I can turn it into a bright just by mushing the edges a little bit. And eventually it turns into a bright anyway every time. So we'll get some branches going in here. So the point to it isn't to fill in every part of the painting with something, but I want to give the feeling that this is not just a lone tree standing on a hill, but it's part of a forest, or at least a grouping of trees. And some of those I might, as the painting progresses, I'll determine which ones I want to really pull out and give more definition to, and others, when I lay them in like that, some of them will just stay the way I laid them in without adding much more to it. So then you can see that this is why I don't worry too much about getting everything really solidified in the beginning, because when I brushed in a lot of the background stuff, I lost some of what was there, right? And that's why, like here, that came right over the top of the tree, but that's going to be easy to fix or to build up now as I go anyway. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
The part of the tree, that dark spot on the tree.
Here?
Yeah, goes right along with the horizon line.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
No.
But it works. Yeah, I thought you did it.
You should have said yes.
Well, actually, I have to watch sometimes. I'll decide whether or not that works with it, because sometimes I'll do that and it'll create a line that'll take somebody right on out of the picture. Where otherwise I would want to have a break, some kind of a pattern interrupt, so that the eye doesn't keep going too fast in one fluid line across the piece. Other times, though, it might work out well to have that little line that way. Okay, so the base of this is going to be more lavenders, I think. And I don't want to come too far down with the base of it either. I've got to watch that, because my frame's going to take up a little bit of the space anyway, so don't want it to become a tangent with the frame down here. So that actually I'll be getting rid of. I don't want it to come down that far. Okay, so I really like getting color into a piece. And that lavender, I will help to push that forward by getting some darks behind it and some other little accents to help pull that light color forward more. There's something stuck in Let's see. I'm going to get rid of some of the white I have on here. Uh-huh. And I'm going to punch some, you know, really push, exaggerate some of the areas too, for effect. So it's not about getting exactly the drawing down the way it is in there. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to know or care. It's drawing it in a way that I'm going to like what I've got there. And since my picture is wider, that's why I'm pulling this out a little bit farther than what it is in there. You know, that's a little bit more vertical and compressed from here to here, but I wanted to pull it out more. And then I can take some of those and see. Oh, that's what it's doing. It's fun. Maybe. And sometimes I'll put something in like that and decide I don't like it. And then I just come back in.
That works, my opinion.
That's I agree. That's why.
It's too far, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Too long.
So then I just come back in and
Have some
and then those will become part of another tree or something in there.
That's good to see that that happens to you.
Yeah.
Makes you-
Oh, I don't know if there are too many artists out there that put something in every time on every picture and it always works. That would be
I think everything was always, they knew exactly what they
I saw a video back in the, was that 89 when I was watching that on Richard Schmid. And in the video, I think it was a PBS special or something. I don't even remember what it was. I just remember him talking about how he puts down a stroke and he knows exactly what he's going to put down and when he's going to put it down, and then that's it. There's no real. Yeah, he knows exactly what he's going to do. But then I've seen him change up things in pieces before. So it's not that way every time with every painting.
That's good to know.
And I liked I don't want to get that too heavy in there.
I think she learned that from CW.
She did.
He used to do Kleenex, as I recall.
Are you friends with his side? He's being all beautiful pictures. So is that lavender?
Mm-hmm. Especially I like lavenders against yellows, to that harmony. on other things that I need to do to give it some distance, or to create some things that kind of go back in there. It had to be small. Just not sure if I do that, if it's going to busy it up yet, so I haven't committed anything to it quite yet. Yeah, fence goes, curves back on in there. That's Brown County.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Banner's blocked there.
Okay, so now I have to decide. How much more build-up I want to put in here. Okay, so I need to make this feel more I think with the time that we have today, I'm going to leave the tree. I thought of beefing it up some so that we could make it feel much more, much larger than all the trees around it. But I think that would take too much time and build up of it, so that we can get you guys painting. Let's see. I'm going to create an area where light is coming in, so we have a shadow side. Oops, not that far down.
Over the rotate. I saw her husband come in.
Did you hear? I had an order.
What is it that she entered?
The rotate.
I think there was 3 paintings. There was like a big, medium, small. It wasn't real small.
It's Hattie Stanton. She's a knife painter.
Mm-hmm.
From Lindsay.
No, I meant, what was it that she entered that you really liked?
Yeah.
No, the subject. You said she entered something, or just overall?
3 landscapes.
Oh, okay.
A big one had a hill, like a hill, and a driveway that was going over the various hills and different. It was neat.
I like her stuff.
It's starting to get muddied up in there. And I need to pull the, what do I want to do about that? Let's see. See, if I widen it out, then that takes away that drama of height. I don't know. I don't know what kind of tree that is.
You've got that drama, though. Sure.
Alrighty, let's see. Put in some sorry, somebody's texting me.
Oh. In a few seconds, changes the area.
And then the way that I'll break up some of that heaviness up there is with little light branches and things. So let's go in and try to do some of that. First. Gotta, like Jean talked about earlier, gotta ground that tree. And I can take any combination of a lot of the paint that I have here already and use that to create some little branches and break up spaces here. Because we want to get this to where it feels like it's not a big dead tree up here. I want it to feel like it has lots of smaller branches that are alive and full of leaves as well. Yep. And I want to make sure I don't create some kind of a pattern everywhere. You know, I don't want the same thing throughout. So I want to, yeah. And then, you know, with like some of those branches we had, I can just push those into the background and make it look like there's a tree much farther off in the distance just by putting in some leaves and things on top of it. And it's easy to get caught up in the fun of doing this and then lose control, you know, get to where suddenly it's too busy or whatever. So I have to stop quite a bit and step back and look in my mirror, look at, do whatever I can to make sure that I don't let it get over exuberant and lose my focus, or lose the center of attention that I talked about in the beginning. Come in here a little bit more.
This would be a good one for art about the land. Do it in your, this one.
Yeah, I heard my brother.
Warm that up a little bit. Oh, and see, I got that pattern. Boom, boom, boom. So I want to disrupt that for sure.
Last year I did. I did drink that. This year I thought mine was better.
I think there's so many things if there's 10 pictures that are similar, even if they're all 10 good, they try to be more alike.
I love those things you
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
It's just so easy.
Yeah, well,
And you could make the background kind of a pale lavender too, couldn't you? Like you did the pale green or, because I'm looking at a picture. I see some lavender.
You need to lay in the background.
Lay in the background.
so, okay, what was that again?
Could you lay in the background like, I love that greenish color, but could it be like a pale lavender? Like
It can be
picture?
anything as long as it is going to
Compliment.
complement what you're doing overall. So for me, the green is very bright and crisp, and so it was a good foil for the contrast here, the darks that I have in
So
there.
would you say that that's from like 9 in the morning? And with the lavender, it might be like 4 in the afternoon?
That's very, yeah, you can, I mean, there's so many possibilities that way, that's where you experiment, and if it works, then great, and if it doesn't, you do something a little bit different, you know, until you get what you want out of it. And you probably need a little bit. More of that structure there.
Are those like leaves that fell off the tree?
Oh, the little flecks and stuff. And bits of grass and stuff that it can be just about anything. It's just mainly was to integrate the bottom portion up into, you know, the upper areas, to help them become a whole unit rather than disparate parts in there that don't seem to work with each other. And okay, so what else? Does it need anything else? This is where I have to decide if it's a fun study the way it is, or if it would be better to work it up more with more, or if the more would just take away from the drama of the moment that's there. So oftentimes I'll then hold on to it for a while and see if anything else works. But for a fast, exuberant study, you know, sometimes that's all it needs.
I think if I were painting it,
Yes.
where you put that long branch, I think I'd come in and put another one there, maybe not quite going off the edge of it.
So something pulling it out into there?
You'll breaking up
A little
that
bit.
space, that one area.
So right in here. Let's see.
Make it,
And when I look in the mirror, just for my comment, these leaves, I think that you laid over top are the same color as the sky, so it makes,
Oh, some of those, yes.
see the,
These ones right here, like that. So it looks like the sky's coming through instead of like leaves on top of it.
right.
So I need to punch those up with more color.
The idea of it coming through the branch.
Well,
I mean, if that's what you
I do too, but as long as it don't look like sky
Exactly. So
from a distance.
we don't want it to look like there's a hole in the tree, so much as there's a leaf on top of the tree, is what you're saying?
yeah.
Well, look in the mirror and see what, see there's another white lady
Up high.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do too.
You do.
Yeah, sometimes all those edges can be broken. Sometimes it'll make it feel like the branch has actually been cut into and it's going to fall off, you know, at any moment. But if I like broken edges and that sort of thing too. So
And she was talking about the hard or soft edges.
Yeah. I wish I had taped it, what she said, because I like to get that through my head, yeah.
there's something stronger over there to work against that. Just trying to see if maybe instead of a branch off of that tree, if I'd create something a little bit to the side that might help.
I think that's gonna be a lot.
Okay, well, we should probably let you guys get some painting done now. And put this to the side and see if anything stands out later about it. Okay, so let's see all of you duplicate what we just did there.
Do we have artistic liberties?
You betcha. There's always artistic liberties.
Got a question. When using retouch varnish, how old of a painting can you put that on?
All right, the class isn't here right now, but I wanted to get a little bit more done to this, and I didn't want them to miss out on it. So I'm a little bit under the weather today, so I canceled the class. It was actually supposed to be today, but thought I'd at least touch this up, and then we can do a different demonstration on the next class. There are a couple of things that I'm not thrilled about on this piece. One is up here, where I want to have a proportionally appropriate mass to the area here. These bright leaves, they almost look like sky back there. They break up the tree mass there and make it seem too small for all that it's holding up at the top. Also, there's a lot of dark up here and a lot of lighter value down here, and the two are kind of split in half. So I want to actually bring a little bit of warmth, as if a light source, the sun. It's kind of a hazy day, but I want the light source to kind of hit on some of these branches here. I have a little bit of that in here in just a couple of spots, but I'd like to soften up some of that so it's not quite so heavy and dark up at the top. Plus, most of my branches here, this one especially, I don't like the fact that it ends right here where that leaf comes across it. This is very strong and dark here and then fades off so quickly. I don't think it's justified by the leaf pattern around it. So those are a couple of the things I want to change. Otherwise, I want to leave the simplicity of it and the quick little impressionist style brushstrokes in there. I like the movement and the energy that it has that way. So let's see if I can do this without destroying the simple feeling that I have there already. And I apologize for my sniffling. I don't get sick very often. Actually, for a while there, I hadn't gotten sick in a couple of years, and then picked up something this week. So I apologize for that. Actually, I want it more warm than that. A little bit darker value. I don't want to entirely disrupt the dark value that's up there, but I want to lessen it some. And then you can have some light shedding in some of these areas. do it a little. So I don't want to create a structure that, I still want to have lost and found edges, and I don't want it to be lose all of the dark and that strong contrast that I have up in there. That's what, for me, gives it a lot of drama. So I have to be careful now. Some of this. Some of that orange color that I have in here kind of creates a transition between the lavenders. It also, the lavenders and the darker reddish, the strong darks that I have in the top. Sorry, my brain is just too muddled today to think and paint at the same time. Or, okay, we should always think while we're painting, but to talk and paint at the same time. I can think of only one thing at a time today, I believe. So, let's see what else would be a good, maybe a little bit stronger shadow. Okay, a little bit of that. And notice that I'm not putting in a shadow. It doesn't have to be just a solid line coming down the trunk. Lost and found edges, that's where you'll have a bit of bark that is going a different direction than another bit of bark. And so it catches the light differently. It might, even though the bark is a dark brown, it might catch the light that's coming down in such a way that it is very light, much lighter than what the bark. If you look at the whole overall tree, you wouldn't think that the bark was that light, but you can have little bits of it that are catching enough light that they become light. So that's how you get lost and found edges. It's because of the constant movement of shapes. There isn't just one. Nature isn't hard-edged. It doesn't have these strong edges that are constant like we do with man-made objects and geometry. So in nature, when we're creating branches, anything else, they're disrupted by, if it's distance, they're disrupted by dust and moisture in the air, all kinds of particulate. If we're up in a forest, we have leaves, small branches, big branches, everything intertwining and overlapping, and all of that creates a whole lot of different light reflections and refractions and edges. So if we're putting an edge onto something, that edge doesn't have to come down uniformly all the way down the object. And breaking it up will help to make it feel more natural. Having constant edges that change and have a lot of interplay that way with the light. Normally I wouldn't go from light to dark with the same brush, but I kind of want that a little bit muddied down, grayed down with the darks that I had on the brush already. So if I wanted a real clean light color, I would get a different brush. If I want a real clean, strong dark, I'd get a different brush, so that I'm starting out without anything to affect it. Don't want anything to disrupt that. Okay, so have that. Sorry about that. I have a tendency to hum. I do it all the time in all kinds of odd places, and my wife points it out to me when we're in public once in a while, but I don't even notice it. It's such a habit, a natural thing that I do. That up just a little bit in here. And I do like that red color a bit, so I'm going to punch up the color in that branch a bit. Now when I grab some dark on a brush that's full of light paint, I know I have a very limited range of use. So I get a sharp edge of my brush, and then when I grab it, I know with that sharp edge that eventually it's going to run out on me, and it's going to mix in with the light. It's not going to be quite the same, but all I wanted was a little bit of dry brushed branches through there to give it, to break up this space a little bit. One, this helps to pull back into the center of interest, and it helps to break up this whole light area right there a bit. Plus it makes it so that this dark branch right here isn't alone out there in space in the midst of all those light leaves and foliage. And this is the point where much of this is subjective. So from this point, somebody else might come and look at it and think, well, I would do this to it. But at this point, besides having my wife look at it and say, well, how come you didn't even see that big glaring problem in there? Other than that, when I look at it, I like that I'm not pulling too much attention down here for the viewer, that the focus is on the tree. So I'm not going to come in here and do a lot of work. Although I do like these lavenders right here. It's almost like it's too much of just a straight tree trunk going up through the foliage. I might grab a little bit of lavender and put that through there. Otherwise, the strong structure I want focused primarily right there in the tree. There, try to pull those two areas together a little bit more, huh? Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. So I'll come back in with my trusty artist tool and take a little bit of that off. Fortunately, it's been a little while since I worked on this piece, so the part that's underneath there is already dry. I have my Terpenoid Naturals, but don't want to use that because it'll actually dissolve the paint that's underneath and start to take it off. I don't want to lose what I had underneath there already. I just want to get back down to more of the dark color. Yeah, that's good. Just trying to get a little bit over there to pull those together. And now I notice that I have a pattern, of light little branches, kind of all in the same stroke, same pattern. Where's your friend? Oh, okay. So I'm going to break those up. Try out some of that alizarin permanent purple or something. Interesting color. Oh, wrong stuff. I did not want that. That's going to make the paint thin over fat. So let's go back over here. I don't want any washes. You can tell it's always better to paint when the mind is nice and clear. And then I'm going to change just kind of breaking up that edge there a bit, or disrupting that edge a little bit. Now I can take a little bit of this lavender up in here. To also help. One, I love the color harmony of lavender and gold. It's a beautiful combination, I think. And as long as your values are right, you can just about put any color and be all right. Here where it's going to be more subject to the light coming down and touching it. I'll kind of lighten that up a bit. It doesn't need to be as dark as this area here that is turning away from the light. Now look in my mirror. Okay, so what I could use is a bit of a light highlight, maybe out here on the edge of my tree. Kind of punch that away from the foliage. occasionally. I just have to play around with color a bit. I think more of a lavender highlight on there would pull it away from that background better than the more yellow highlight that I had there. Very nice of you, right? Okay, so what else? Oh, that's right. I wanted to get some of those lavender branches maybe in there, huh? Let's get a few. Especially to add some color to this. It's a very warm piece overall. Wouldn't hurt to have some coolness added in here. Help balance out a little bit of that warmth. Some of that blue in there to complement with the oranges that we've got. So rather than thinking necessarily of specific tree structures with some of this, I'm thinking more of where some color would help strengthen the piece. Just like that. It's always, it can be a lot of fun to add more colors, and I want this to be more of a subtle piece, so I don't want to overwhelm it with too much little bits of arbitrary color everywhere. But I think some of those are some fun accents to have in there. You know what, let's push this branch that's more in the distance here back even farther. Just notice that those two are kind of competing a bit. I can tone that one down so we have at least some of these that are farther away. They're not all right here next to us. How about that? Then we have then that creates more of a triad. We have the three stronger branches, the one going back a little bit more. And then we've got this mix right there. So do I want to get rid of that or that? Probably that one. And since I don't have since that original color was made mostly with the white of the panel showing through, And remember, I don't have to cover this entirely. That can be another branch like this one, only even farther back, going back in there. So I don't have to worry about being exact. And we'll get some a little bit more punched up color here. Something to there. There we go. Bring that up a bit. Maybe even a tad more obvious. There, that makes it even more lively. This is one of the situations where I've got to remember that just because I like a color in one place doesn't mean that adding it everywhere is going to be an improvement. All right, I think I'll let that sit for a while and see if I like it. All right, so I did notice a couple more things here. One, I've taken away too much of the dark here on the bottom, so these two are still competing value-wise. I need to change that up. I just had a conversation with my daughter who's moved out to Utah, so it gave me some time to look at my picture and think about it. And then I want to, sorry about that, that's terrible. Break this mass up some back here. Oh yeah, forget about it. This too is like some weird break there. So let's pull that down here some. Okay, and then I have this mass right here that's, from a distance, it is just a little bit much. So, too much the same all through it. So I'm going to kind of break that up a little bit with some, just a tad. So it feels like some light is filtering through there somewhere. Oh, yes. And then of course, this big old mass here of yellow just doesn't make a lot of sense there. I did at the time when I did it, but it doesn't now. That's a little thick. take some of that red. I'm going to pop a little bit of fire up here. Really round that over. And I'm going to tone this down just a touch under here. So there's a definite separation of those branches back there. And if that branch is going off in the distance, it means there are other little branches going across it and bits of leaves and things, so break that up some. Got this following the branch there, so that kind of bothers me a bit. I need to just kind of disrupt that just a little bit somewhere. I want this to be fairly open up here because I like the contrast, but not too much. Too much open. So to create a halo or something around it. Need just to pull a little bit of this over here. And a little bit. I better quit before I get too far behind. Let's see. Let's make sure no other major disruptions. So I'm looking, when I'm working up close, it's easy to get too caught up in the details and lose focus on making sure that I have a primary direction that I want the viewer to think. So that's why I have to, in my studio here, I can get about 15 to 20 feet back and look at it overall and get a better sense of the feeling of the whole piece together. And then if I get up close again, then I can see some of the details, but I don't want to get lost and lose my overall focus because of that. So when I get back, it helps to reduce it down again to simple general shapes rather than here's a tree with branches. I want to see the movement's going, I'm leading people in the right direction, that the overall, there's a balance of shapes, large and small, medium shapes, a variety of shapes and colors and values all working together and not competing with one another. All right, I think we're good. We'll call it an afternoon. Thanks for stopping by. Now get out there and paint your own masterpiece. Oh, and before you go, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in any of my videos, just go to my website at inmanfinearts.com and you can find them all there. Have a great day painting.